Can you dream of a world immune to cancer? Hello everyone, my name is Nick and I'm the host of the annual live stream for The Cure, where content creators and podcasters from around the world join me to raise money for the Cancer Research Institute and immunotherapy research, which is training the body's immune system to fight against all forms of cancer. Over the past 7 years, thanks to the power of indie podcasters and the indie podcasting community and listeners just like you listening to this right now, we have raised over $90,000. And as I record this now, the 8th annual live stream for The Cure is barreling down upon us really quickly in just about 2 weeks. So join us please from May 29th through June 1st for 48 hours of amazing content from people all over the world and help us fight for a world immune to cancer. I'll now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Thank you so much. And together, we can make a difference.
And so today we chance to pass a Nickelodeon, decide to while away an hour in innocent pleasure. And what do we see, Mr. Cobb? What assaults our innocent eyes?
One of our own goddamn pictures.
Not just one of our own goddamn pictures, but 10 of our own goddamn pictures. 10 of our best, most exciting dramas cut by you, sir. Butchered into a single, jumbled up, truncated, foreshortened, all but incomprehensible mess. And here it is, Exhibit A, Tuttle's Muddle.
Did they laugh?
That is beside the point.
They laughed. Look, we're famous. $35 a week. That's slave wages. What we want is more money.
We want a guarantee in writing that says you're not allowed to cut our stuff to ribbons anytime you feel like it. A contract says you ship them out the way you get them, our way.
More money.
Okay, that's it. I rest my damn case.
And we'd like some more money.
Welcome to part 2 of our Nickelodeon episode. But before we go into real talk, even before we go into the patron pitch, Alex, this should be dropping towards the end of May, which means that as you're listening to this, assuming that you listen on the day it drops, the live stream for The Cure is already in full swing. That means that if you do nothing else this weekend, please make sure you clear your calendar so that this Saturday, June 1st at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central, you check out The Contrarians at the live stream for The Cure. I'm going to do 1 hour of The Contrarians versus Disney animated movies. If you're the audience, you'll be able to throw Disney movies at us and we'll do Contrarians treatments on them. It'll be a lot of fun. Like, it's been a lot of fun the past few years, raising money for cancer research. Now, as we announced on the previous episode, we're hoping to raise $1,000. That's considerably more than what we've raised the past few years. Last time we did a little over 600. So, I mean, we raised money, but we're increasing the amount of the goal. Our 4th year, a reminder, our last reminder before the event. If we raise $250, we are committing to doing an episode on 3 from Hell, the Rob Zombie movie that I never thought I would watch, but Alex has put that as the goal. If we hit $250, which we probably will, that's like, I think on our lowest year, we've done at least $250. If we double that, if we hit $500 in donations, we are going to do West Side Story, the Spielberg version, the 2021 movie. That's me paying Alex back for that Rob Zombie business. If we move up to $750 in donations, you guys are awesome. And so we're going to reward you by doing an episode on Hamilton, the Lin-Manuel Miranda musical that got, a movie adaptation of sorts. They recorded the performance and it's on Disney Plus. And Alex is going to have to sit through it. And then if we hit our max goal, $1,000, then this is not punishment for me, but it's certainly something that I wouldn't have thought of doing. But we're going to do a special coverage of all the movies in the Child's Play series. Just the movies, not the TV show. From the first Child's Play all the way to the remake that Alex loves and patron Ben Murray hates. All that covered, kind of like what we did with the Terminator franchise. So $250, $500, $750, $1,000. Even if you donate $1, you can contribute to this. And even if you don't donate, just show up at the live stream for our segment, for all the other segments. Just help drive interest to it, because it's a really noble cause and a really good goal, and we're honored to be part of it. So
correct.
That's our LP, our live stream pitch. Let's move on to PP, our patron pitch, where we tell our patrons what they can expect on their exclusive patron feed, and we also let non-patrons know what they're missing out on. As usual, we have at least one bonus episode on the patron feed every month. This month, as we've said before, is the movie Confessions, demanded by patron Ryan, a very disturbing thriller, mystery, mindfuck? Just find out by listening to the episode. Here, Alex and I try to untangle what goes on and deal with our feelings after watching that movie. You also get access to our cutting room floor segments, all the stuff that doesn't make it into the episodes, that goes to the patron feed for your perusal. So that's stuff that every patron has access to, from the ground floor, the dollar tier, all the way to the top tier, the $10 tier. Now, if you want more stuff, you have to be at least on the $3 tier, the Winonis, and then you get access to our pre-recording notes, you get access to our quick video reviews. Alex is going to be watching Lady Macbeth, starring a very young Florence Pugh before she blew up. And I'll be watching The Brothers Bloom, Rachel Weisz movie with Mark Ruffalo and other people, directed by Ryan Johnson, both demanded by patron and friend Eddie Strait. And then, of course, Contrarians After Hours. That's the spin-off show where normally we tell you about all the random things that we're watching, playing, reading, thinking about. But during the summer, on the Bogdanovich film After Hours, we're just going to be talking about other Peter Bogdanovich movies. Alex, do you know which one we're going to be talking about this time?
No, man, you got the wheel for this, so I'm riding along.
It's on the spreadsheet.
You're Tatum O'Neal. I'm just sitting in the back drinking wine.
Are you Burt Reynolds?
I'm not going to put that on myself. That'd be way too conceited, but I'm fine being Ryan O'Neal.
What's Up, Doc? That's going to be our Bogdanovich film for the After Hours. That is actually a movie that he did before he did Nickelodeon. And it's a movie that came up when I was looking through the quotes as a comparison. Like, people were saying, you know, what worked in What's Up, Doc didn't work in Nickelodeon. So I'm really curious to see what they mean by that. It is not, as far as I can tell, a Bugs Bunny biopic. So
fair.
We'll see. We'll see what happens with What's Up, Doc. But that will be on the After Hours. And then, if you want to be part of those patrons that tell us what to do, like Eddie, like Ryan, that's when you have to check the $5 tier, the Embries, and the $10 tier, the GATs. And then you get to dictate what some of our episodes here and on the Patreon feed are about. So if that sounds good, go to patreon.com/Contrarian Prime, look at our offerings, and see how you would like to join the Contrarian supplements.
$1, $3, $5, and $10. We currently have a few outstanding projects out there, patron-exclusive projects that when we cross a certain threshold of patrons, contributors, that we will unveil those. Well, they've been unveiled. We'll roll those out, I should say. We'll begin mass production of those. But to all of our current patrons, we love you all dearly. And to those on the fence, or if you're a first-time listener and curious about what else we have to offer, our patrons way more loosey-goosey than what you're listening to here. Head on over, drop $1. You'll have access to things like our Lindsay Lohan career retrospective, our Roxina journey, and our bonus episodes dating all the way back to our very first one with Blue is the Warmest Color. A lot more free form there than here. So, like I said, if you've been on the fence, or if you're a first-time listener and curious what else we have to offer, it's $1. You're not going to miss it. Go check it out. And with that, you'll probably cross the threshold for at least one of our projects that we have that we're excited to roll out. So that is our patron pitch. Julio, now we ask the listeners to give us $1, but in reality, all we need for this is a nickel.
2 nickels, one for each. I don't think that they were doing the Discount Tuesdays back in the 20s.
That's true. No 2-for-1s. That's right.
Somebody's trying to give you guys a bad name.
Oh, who wants to be respectable anyway?
Hey, Harrigan, we found a picture house.
I do.
Don't worry, it'll never happen. Where?
Down the street.
Why did people hate this movie so much?
Okay, you took the words out of my mouth. It's like, what? Why? Okay, I know that here, once again, we run into one of those instances where the Rotten Tomatoes system is exposed as being incredibly flawed, right? Mm-hmm. You have a movie like Nickelodeon, and we'll get into it, you know, the ups and downs, the good and bad and whatever. But I think even most people that don't like this movie would hopefully agree that 7% paints a very damning picture.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah. But the thing is, yes, it's 7% because there's like 15 reviews. So there's only one fresh tomato. The other ones are rotten. And the percentage, it's not a good representation. You know, it's like, why don't you poll critics today and just get them to submit their scores? And then maybe that score would go up a little more, and it would be a little more accurate, maybe for as accurate as Rotten Tomatoes can be with their binary way of looking at a movie's quality. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, Alex. But like I said, usually for Real Talk, we do fresh quotes. There's only one fresh quote for Nickelodeon.
Shame.
Yeah. So I grabbed that fresh quote, and then I also grabbed 2 rotten quotes that are not as bad. And that will lead us into this conversation. So let's get this out of the way. The one fresh tomato, Alex, from Variety staff, doesn't really single out a person. Just says Variety staff liked it. And they say, Peter Bogdanovich's film is an okay comedy drama about the early days of motion pictures. It's a red tomato that's a little green.
It's quaint. Yeah.
It's turning.
It's not quite ripe.
No. Then this is rotten. TV Guide says, as an homage to the start of the film industry, this extravaganza is quite a tribute, but as a motion picture, it's sadly lacking. So, good as a tribute, bad as a movie. And finally, Dennis Schwartz from Dennis Schwartz Movie Reviews says, if nothing else, it truly shows Bogdanovich's love for movies.
I mean, that's accurate.
Yes. Why rotten, though? It's that very specific genre that you love to hate, Alex. The love letter movie.
The love letter to Hollywood. Yeah, this is fine. It's not a 7%er. That's kind of, I was expecting like something disastrous. And again, you said it's 15 reviews?
I think so.
Yeah, so it's not like a big universally all-time legendary bomb or anything like that, but at the same time I was expecting something kind of worse than this. It's fine. It's not great, but I certainly was like, all right, Rotten Tomatoes is flawed, and this is why the 7% is like, come on, man.
I mean, just to be completely fair, you do have 2 out of those 15 reviews. 2 of them are pretty big names, right? Ebert and Cale.
Yes, definitely.
But still, Roger. I think even Ebert would agree that he's seen much worse than this.
Yeah, I would hope. And then just reading today about some of the contemporary thoughts on it. Irwin Winkler, who was a producer on it, who had been a producer on things like Rocky, Raging Bull, Goodfellas, The Right Stuff. I was reading one of his quotes from the Wikipedia page, and he said in his memoirs, Irwin Winkler says he wanted to make a movie about the silent film era. He took the idea of W.D. Richter, with whom he had worked numerous times, and Richter agreed to write the project on spec for the producers. Winkler's producing partner was Bob Chartoff. Richter's final script was called Starlight Parade and attracted interest from United Artists in Columbia. David Begelman at Columbia suggested Peter Bogdanovich as director. And skipping around here a little bit, but Winkler said when he saw a rough cut of the final film, he thought it was atrocious, and for Peter to blame the film's failures on the casting and not being in black and white is really a terrible excuse for a guy who simply screwed up a terrific script, excuse me.
Okay, well, first let's talk about the black and white thing, just because we haven't watched the cut, but we've glimpsed it. It's on YouTube.
So it's on YouTube. It is 125 minutes, so only like 3 or 4 minutes longer. The 2009 DVD release includes a 125-minute director's cut in black and white. There's nothing to distract you, said Bogdanovich. Ryan's blonde hair and blue eyes don't distract you, and you focus on the action in an easier way. That's why the funniest movies ever made were silent comedies. Buster Keaton, Harold Lloyd, Charlie Chaplin. It focuses the attention in a different way, and color is distracting for that very sort of thing. I would take a moment of umbrage. The funniest movie ever made is Wayne's World 2. So I'm sorry, Peter, but you're off base with that.
Well,
and this is
I offered this addendum, Alex. Have you tried just turning the color off on your TV when you're watching Wayne's World 2? Maybe it's even funnier.
Who's to say? This is funny because we recorded just last night. We're talking about the power of black and white, and when it can be used for good and when it can be used for bad. I mean, with this, I can't say that it would have made really a difference one way or the other. I actually think the color kind of helps it because it's talking about creating film in a colorless world and movie in color. You know what I mean? So I find that to be a positive. So we'll hop around a little bit with some of the thoughts on this, but that was what stuck out to me immediately. Is it seemed like one of those movies that what was that? Dakota Johnson movie that just recently came out that everyone knew was going to be really bad.
Madam Web.
Yes. So Nickelodeon was the Madam's Web of its day. Like it seemed like from the jump, everyone knew it was going to be. But we've talked about this before constantly. The bad movies of 50 years ago are just like, this is fine. It's just standards were so much fucking higher.
Yeah, but also I think that it was just one of those. Bogdanovich had been on a streak, right? And it was time. Like they were, that's how the industry works. That's how fandom works. They build you up and then eventually they can't wait to tear you down. And so it was going to happen sooner or later, right? And that's just the nature of the beast. I do think that he starts, in a very Tarantino-esque fashion, starts disappearing up his own ass when he starts talking about black and white in that quote.
Yeah.
I watched the first 10 minutes or so because, I caught it on YouTube and I was like, oh, is this the movie? And so I watched the first 10 minutes or so, like in black and white. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess it's in black and white. But then when I actually sat down to watch, the version that they're buying from YouTube, like it was in color and it works great. And you're right about the contrast between what they're shooting, which is in black and white, and real life, which is in color. Like, I like it. I like that aspect. When they're all sitting there watching Birth of a Nation at the end, that movie is black and white, but the curtains around the screen are red. And I like that. That was the one time I think that when I was like, this would be such a shame to not have that detail if this was in black and white, to have those red curtains that really say old-timey movie theater for me. I think the color is not probably Ryan O'Neal's blue eyes. What the fuck is he talking about?
Ryan O'Neal was a handsome man, but he's not someone that I get lost in his eyes,
Wait! What's your name?
Kathleen Cook, what's yours?
Leo Harrigan, Harri.
Like the man in the song.
Yeah.
All right, look, Alex, I didn't want to come on too strong, and but I also don't want to keep having to like measure myself. I'll come out and say it. I love this movie. This movie was,
wow.
Yeah, it just hit the sweet spot for me. And I think, like you, I have an affinity for movies about making movies. Sometimes it works against them because I think that if you make a movie that's about making movies that is not fun, or that it doesn't, if it's not going to be fun, then they better have something to say, right? Sometimes it feels like a movie about the making of movies, just the filmmaker jerking himself off. And that's when I'm like, fuck off. This movie's fun. This movie's fun, and it does two things. The two things. It's fun, and then it has something to say about movies. I mean, it's something very earnest, very non-cynical, that message at the end of the power of movies. It's also something that is very true many times. There's a very cynical way of looking at this story and just going like, and this is when things started going wrong. With if you look at Birth of a Nation as the creation of the blockbuster, the way that people look at Star Wars or Jaws as the creation of the blockbuster, and how they started seeing it as a business, and therefore business started dictating the decisions. But I guess the movie also shows you that business was dictating the decisions even before that. But I just like it. I as a concept, just sure, take me on this nostalgia trip to the 20s and show me how they're making these movies. And I just had such a good time. I think that everybody is really funny. I can see how, and I was, reading through some other quotes and looking through Letterboxd, because I ended up pulling Letterboxd quotes for our video, for the warm-up video. A lot of people just don't find it funny. And obviously that makes or breaks this movie. I was laughing my ass off. So I was always on board with whatever they were doing.
Interesting.
Yeah, if you don't find it funny, then I can see how you're like, yeah, where's the story, right? They just keep kind of fumbling from one project to the other and doing things, and there's kind of a love triangle, but there's not a correlation, and this happens and leading to this. I mean, there's some things that are linked, but overall it's, kind of like with the Last Picture Show. It's like a hang movie. You just hanging out with these filmmakers as this sort of war between studios and indies is taking place, and then at the end they're disillusioned with the industry, and then they come out of their funk in that final shot, and you're with them. So the love letter works for me. It works so well. I was so happy. I was the entire time, the first 20-30 minutes, I couldn't believe that this was a reviled movie, and then the rest of the time I was terrified that somehow Bogdanovich was going to fumble it so badly in the third act that it was going to explain to me why people don't like it so much, right? I was like, oh, it pissed people off, not because it's a bad movie, but it's because it's a movie that really drops the ball at the end. But I don't think that's the case either. So I am full on team Nickelodeon on this one, Alex. Now you get to tell me what doesn't work for you, because you seem pretty shocked by my enthusiasm.
I don't think I'd say I dislike it. It's just the love was coming in so strong with that was kind of surprising.
It needed to burst, because I was like I said, I was trying to not give it away during Contrarians Corner at even the beginning of Real Talk.
Yeah, the comedy, if it doesn't work for you, you're going to be rolling your eyes. But I found a lot of the dialogue to be pretty funny. Even like I'm Frank, Leo, Frank, no, Leo, like that back and forth. And just some of the little quippy lines from Tatum O'Neal. That was really good too. The dog's name is Leo. I thought that was really funny. It kind of meandered. It went on a bit long, but I mean, I really enjoyed a lot of it. Burt Reynolds is funny, and the fight scenes and the pratfalls are really good. I think it really runs out of steam going into the third act when it's trying to be more of like a commentary and the whole movie is obviously a commentary or like a love letter, but the third act feels like it's trying to say something more than the other two, and so it runs out of steam, and I found it to be a bit long and dragged in some parts. I love the idea of, there's some truth to that goons would just come and take your shit or, try to destroy film if you were making something that wasn't, studio approved, so to speak. So I find a lot of that fascinating. I fear this may be a movie where I find the making of and like the backlash is an extreme word, but like kind of the fallout and the disagreements on the filmmaking process to be a bit more fascinating than the actual movie. But by no means did I think this was like bad. I was watching it, I was just like, for some reason I thought this was like a 50%er we were doing, but then when I pulled up the spreadsheet and read like the 7%, I was like, what the fuck? Because and again, it's the pool it's pulling from, but we talked about fighting with my family is like 94% or 93%, and yep. The idea of that versus this being 7 is the discrepancy there, and the immense difference is shocking. Dunstan checks in. I just was re-verifying 41%. It's like this movie is not a worse movie than Dunstan checks in. In many ways, it's a better movie than Dunstan checks in.
With all respect to Nervert, in all the ways, it's better than Dunstan checks in.
So yeah, that part of it was pretty surprising. I enjoyed this. I thought it was fine. It doesn't hold a candle to Targets or Last Picture Show, but it's good.
Yeah, obviously I think it does hold a candle. Might even hold a full light bulb. It's I get you with the. I didn't feel it was bloated. I was more like I felt that the movie was arriving at an end point, and then I was surprised to find out we still had like 30 minutes to go. I remember, it's not that I paused because I wanted to check, but something made me pause. And then I was like, oh, it's not even close to being over. Because when they go to Hollywood, I thought that was the end of the movie. I was like, oh, it ends like this, right? The system assimilates and they go over to just make big movies. And that's going to be the end of it. I thought that when Ryan O'Neal was making the rounds and looking at different sets and interacting with different people, I was like, oh, this is the final scene. We're just seeing what his life is now, and that's going to be the end of it. But no, I mean, there's still a big chunk of movie left because they have to fall out of love with Hollywood, go back to being independents, break up because of the love triangle, and then come back together at the end. So it was, I think maybe if you watch it again, knowing where the story's going, like if I watch it again, knowing where the story's going, then I don't feel that bump because I know that we're still, when we get to Hollywood, there's still a big part of the movie left. So I never felt, I was never restless. I was never bored. I think that it's so funny that it just keeps going and going.
Yes, the balloon will cost you $50 for the day.
Give you 30.
I said 50, little girl.
Give you 25.
I said 50.
Give you 20.
You just said 25.
That's the deal.
What?
There's two things in the movie that they didn't take me out of the movie, but they gave me pause, especially knowing that it was something that, we're going to talk about. And some of it I actually already covered in Contrarians Corner, although perhaps in a little more of a performative way. So it's the birth of a nation thing. I find it fascinating. And of course, I don't remember what movie were we talking about recently where I made sure, or I tried to make sure to put it out there that I understand why some things don't offend me as much as they might offend other people. And I understand, like, obviously, we all have different experiences that shape our lives, and those experiences define how we react to certain things. So
was it Tarantino language? Maybe some of the language in
things to do in Denver when you're dead.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about. Because I was like, the slurs, I get it, but they don't offend me. And so when I watch the movie, that's not something that jolts me that way. Same thing, like Birth of a Nation. I understand why it's offensive, and I understand, why anybody would have a serious problem with it. And if that causes anybody to go, yeah, fuck that movie and fuck any movie that brings it up in a positive light, I get it. But I think that, there are people that are affected like that, and it's 100% okay. Not that they need my permission, but I'm just saying I get it.
It sucks that, like, one of the most, like, revolutionary films ever made has such a fucking problematic nature. Not even problematic, just, like, wrong nature to it. And I don't mean to cut you off there, but with Birth of a Nation, that's something that always comes to mind. It's like horrifying that, like, that's, and again, I've only read about it. There's graphic depiction. There's also something we did skip over in Contrarians Corner with this that's kind of done for comedic effect. The idea of white characters playing blackface.
Yep, that's the second thing.
Okay, well, then I'll save that for you. But in the case of Birth of a Nation, it's one of those things, like, I only know about it, and when I mean read about it, not only the plot but also, like, the technical advances it made and the things it did, and, like, the filmmakers it inspired and whatnot at the time, and obviously changed the game.
Yeah,
I just wish it was about, like, fucking hockey or something. Like, I wish it was about something that was, that we could celebrate and say, man, look at this shit right here. So yeah, not to cut you off, that's just always my thought process when it comes to it, because it's not going to be like, fuck yeah, great movie. It's just like, it's terrifying that that's a part of our nation's history, but it was a very revolutionary film.
Yeah, it's part of film history, and you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to watch it. You don't even have to acknowledge what it did. If you decide that you don't want to, you don't want to. But that doesn't mean that where I draw the line is at this idea that the entire world should just shut down that part of history. Because that doesn't, I think that diminishes our collective experience as human beings that have gone through, through history. I think that if it's something that you can handle, then you're closing yourself off if you decide to not talk about these things, right? Like the complicated nature of a movie that is so problematic, but also that happened to turn the industry upside down in a good way. And so that's how I feel, right? Like I feel like it's a good conversation as long as you're not talking with somebody that actually thinks that the movie is to be praised for its themes or for the things that it did wrong. Then you're talking about something else. But if you're talking about it as a movie and the things that it accomplished as a movie, the things that it changed as a movie, then I don't want to close ourselves off to that conversation. And so that's why I like it. I don't have a problem with it being in this movie at the end and being used in that way. In a perfect world, they would have used a different movie. But I think, like I said in Contrarians Corner, it kind of had to be Birth of a Nation. And if you're going to tell me, well, if it had to be Birth of a Nation, then I wish that they just hadn't told the story at all, I disagree with that very much so. Yeah. Of course, that's coming from me, somebody who just admitted that they love the movie, they find it funny and whatever. I think that if you don't like the movie, if you find it boring and unfunny, then on top of that, when they throw Birth of a Nation at you at the end, you're like, fuck this. Bogdanovich, what are you thinking? And along the same lines, I mean, I think they're related. The blackface that we get earlier, I think that, I saw on Letterboxd like a lot of knee-jerk reaction going like, oh, no, that's bad, you know? And yes, it is bad, but the movie's making fun of it. It's a punchline. I think maybe the discussion is like, should it be a punchline, right? Like, are we allowed to make fun of these things? Like, are we?
What you're saying about the making fun of it is the crux of the Tropic Thunder thing. Obviously, that took that to comedically different levels than it does here. I
think it's even more justified in Tropic Thunder, because Tropic Thunder is making it the whole point of the character, right? Like, this is how ridiculous Robert Downey Jr. is. And it's making fun of method actors, and it's making fun of...
Oh, yeah, no. Trust me, I have defended that, and it's... he got nominated for a fucking Oscar for it, and it's a more dramatized version of what Joaquin does, and I'm Still Here. You know what I mean? Of just like this commentary on method acting and how fucking stupid actors are, or can be. Excuse me, I don't mean to generalize it. And in this case, it's a movie about making movies in 1914, and I never got the idea that it was saying that cultural appropriation or just flat out blackface is good, or nor did I get the idea that it was saying Birth of a Nation good. It's just, for me personally, like, uncomfortable is not the right word, because it's not one of those things that affects my like judgment of watching this movie. But Birth of a Nation is one of those things that every time I think about it, I'm just like, God, what the fuck is wrong with people? Like, I think to like just how flawed and wrong, and sadly, a lot of that is still prevalent. But I understand what you're saying, and these conversations are so hard to have. And obviously, Julio, you and I are like best friends, so we know what we're saying with this. But what I'm taking away from you, and I agree with, you can't ignore history. You can say like, yes, that's bad, but you can't ignore something's historical contribution. And that's specific to Birth of a Nation in this case.
Right.
And then with this movie and what you're calling out, like the blackface performances or portrayal in this, it's, yeah, I don't know if I thought I guess it kind of was making fun of it, but it's not good. But movies that were being made in 1914 were doing that shit. So it's an accurate retelling of what that was like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that there's the other way of doing it would be to just not basically shoot that scene, don't have the actors in blackface, and then you would probably have a big part of the audience going like, well, that's not how it went. And some people would prefer that. They were like, I don't care, make it a fantasy, but at least, you're not offending anybody versus, I mean, it's a lose-lose scenario, I guess.
Yeah, and that's where we're getting with a lot of things. It feels like, and that's not the woke mob taking over. It's just, I think, understandably so, a lot of people don't want to be reminded of past transgressions, and that's fine. It's just, if you want to sit down and talk about it like an adult, you have to acknowledge, like, yeah, something really terrible could have also had like a massive impact on society or the history of a medium at one point in time.
Dan, would you ask Alice to be a bridesmaid? We need one, and she won't put on the blackface.
Oh, I don't blame her. They all look ridiculous.
Why would you say that?
I can't help it. Cobb will not send any money for extras. He says burn some cork and black up the crew.
I think, just kind of like to put the button on this, my reaction to it, or my concern, so to speak, is just that slowly, like, you kind of create a shortcut for outrage, a shortcut for, let's say cancellation. You have the cancel button. And so where you don't even have to think about it. You do that shortcut of, in this case,
I do need to quickly call out that none of the negative reception about this movie had anything to do with this, but Julio and I are both watching this for the first time in 2024 and thinking of the idea of this movie came out tomorrow.
Well, but I'm also, like I'm telling you, I'm looking at the comments on Letterboxd, right? And there are people that are like, "Oh, this fucking movie."
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, you did. Yeah, you had to pull that because there's only one positive review on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. So a lot of people call out the blackface, and also Perennial shows dresses up as a Native American at some point, and then Birth of a Nation. And so when you sidestep, when you teach people that, oh, Birth of a Nation equals bad without really going through the thought process of why it's bad. I think that that's the problem, because you're creating that shortcut where they see Birth of a Nation on the screen and they automatically shut it down. It's like, oh, this is bad. And then that's it, and the whole point is that you're supposed to think about it. You're supposed to, like, how much more interesting is this conversation? Because we can talk about the bad and the good and just the weird juxtaposition of a movie that has so many flaws, that's so despicable, but at the same time, it just revolutionized movie making in the way that this movie, that Nickelodeon shows it. So again, that's fine. If you have a reaction that's very negative, I have reactions that are very negative to very specific things. And I know that I can just 100% go like, yeah, I don't want to engage with this. But that doesn't extend, or at least I try to have it that not extend to the rest of the world, to where I can still understand why other people might have a softer reaction to it. And so they can engage with it on a stronger level. So I personally don't have a problem with it. Obviously, I just said I love this movie, but I found when I was watching the movie, like, those are the two things that came to mind. And again, partly because I knew that we were going to talk about it. And I was like, I don't want to not talk about it. I don't want to dance around the fact that they have blackface in one scene, that Birth of a Nation. I mean, it was impossible to avoid Birth of a Nation. But Burt Reynolds as the dressed as a Native American, I thought that was funny just because it's Burt Reynolds and he looks ridiculous. I mean, he could have been dressed as an alien and he would have, also gotten a laugh out of me. I mean, that's just...
It is ridiculous, especially because that's like his most dramatic scene in the movie. That's the...
Yes.
You got lust in those eyes, Hulk Hogan. That's, if people are upset by that, they probably shouldn't know that John Wayne once played Genghis Khan.
Swan Harrigan, one of these days I'm going to kill you.
Well, just don't scalp me, Chief.
That ain't funny.
On to lighter things, Alex. Now that we got the heavy stuff out of the way, I want to take a moment to praise, specifically to single out the O'Neills, who I say Contrarians Corner 2 for 2 as far as this father-daughter duo. And they are so good. Okay, first, Tatum O'Neil. I've only seen her in Paper Moon, and now I've seen her a few years later in Nickelodeon. And I'm not going to say that in this movie she proves that she has a lot of range, because she's kind of playing just an older version of her character in Paper Moon. That's what I felt. But I think it proves that she's got what it takes to play that character, which is not, that's already...
She won an Oscar for it.
Pretty cool. Yeah. She has the comic delivery, the comic timing, the sass, the presence. It was just really good, because it could have been, that there's child actors that as they get older, they just lose that thing. They just don't have what they had when they were younger, and they can't really hold the screen the way that they used to. And that's not the case here. I mean, she's still really funny, and here she's playing off a lot more people. It's a bigger cast, it's a more complicated story, a more complicated set of relationships, right? Like what the story is asking her to do, even though she's not one of the main characters the way that she was in Paper Moon, she still gets to do some stuff, right? Not just her kind of crush on Burt Reynolds, but her sort of creative partnership with Ryan O'Neal, which is very different from what they were doing in Paper Moon, where they were father and daughter. And this sort of evolution of her career as the screenwriter / producer, like, I thought it was really funny. And she's still a little girl. I mean, there's the first time that they praise one of her script ideas, right? When she basically adapts Romeo and Juliet for the footage of the balloon that they have. She's delivering it all very deadpan. And then somebody says, when she's done, it's either John Ritter or Marty. Somebody goes like, that was really good. And she kind of like half shrugs, half smiles. It's not even a close up. It's like a group shot, but it's just such a moment that feels so real.
There's another one where she quotes something and looks at Burt Reynolds and says, Othello. And he goes, which fellow?
Yes.
Beware of jealousy, my lord. 'Tis the green-eyed monster that mocks and meet at feet.
Huh?
That's from Othello.
What fella?
Othello by William Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah, I heard of him.
And then Ryan O'Neal.
He honestly, he gets to be too much for me in this.
Really?
Yeah.
Please tell me more, Alex. I thought he was perfect.
Okay, so for me, it's just like an ensemble cast, and she doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, which, my
Hitchcock?
God. Yeah, Jane Hitchcock. I thought she was really good in the character she played. There could be more to it that I haven't read about, to where they had to limit what she was doing. She was Conor McGregor in Roadhouse, but Burt Reynolds was so good, and the surrounding cast I really enjoyed. He was just a doofus. Leo, that is, not Ryan O'Neal, but Leo Harrigan. I think it was the character that kind of grated on me towards the end. Ryan O'Neal is obviously, between this and Paper Moon, he's on a pretty good hot streak with the Contrarians.
Yeah, I had not even that strong a reaction or negative reaction, but I was more on the Burt Reynolds came really close to just being too much for me.
Oh, okay.
So maybe it's just that I'm hashtag Team Ryan and you're hashtag Team Burt. But I think that I sympathize with Ryan O'Neal more just because he was the creative, and I really, those type of characters really tickle me. He's, especially because he starts not knowing anything, and then you have that cut, that fast forward to a few months later, and he now he's manipulating Burt Reynolds, and he's being a director now, and his sort of like sad sack love story. He's part of the love triangle. I like that he's not perfect. That's a pretty weaselly thing to do, what he does. But I like that the movie doesn't sanitize it, and I like that Jane Hitchcock doesn't choose him. She still goes back to Burt Reynolds. I think it is weird. I wonder if there's a cut, maybe the director's cut, black and white cut, they actually have sex. Because he pulls her into the bathtub. And you're right, the next time you see them, she's naked. I mean, she's wrapped on the sheet or whatever, and he's wearing his robe. And if she didn't say nothing happened, the way that it's shot, it's like, to imply that something happened. So, I wonder if that's a reshoot or what. But still, I like that little journey he has, and the fact that, he has to constantly wrestle with his emotions and his professionalism, trying to get the movie made. And I think he's really funny. And dude, that fight he has with Burt Reynolds, I couldn't believe that it was still funny, because it just kept going and going. And I was like, at what point am I going to get tired of this? And I didn't. I just thought that every time I thought that they were just about to end it, they would come up with something else that was funny that would just make it keep going. Did you feel it was too long, or was that okay?
Oh, no, I got a kick out of it. I referenced John Sullivan earlier, the old boxing stance, put up your dukes, like the way that Ryan O'Neal, the Marcus of Queensberry rules it, and then at the end of the fight, he's like, "Are we still obeying?" And then fucking Burt Reynolds soccer kicks him. He's like, "We are not obeying the Marcus of Queensberry rules." Yeah, I thought that whole thing was really funny. That might have been one of the high points of the movie for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a big, it's a big sequence too. What do you think of the conceit? I guess it's a gimmick, right? The idea of having the storytelling, the transitions, and the title cards be like an old silent movie, even though it's not a silent movie at all.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually. That's I thought that was a nice touch.
Yeah, I think it helps pull together the movie. I think that if you didn't have that, it would feel more scattered than it is already. Like, I don't have a problem with it being old scatterbrain, but it definitely helps to have those transitions, because they're just going to explain it to you, right? And then 2 months later, another adventure. It
really helps in breaking up, like, it makes it feel like, yeah, of course a year went by. Like, it does a good job of, as opposed to just like, then fall came, and, doing like a more, it's just a fucking stopgap. It's not like a truncated brief history. It's just like, all right, now you're here. That's such a better way of making films than trying to do something like a montage that I joked about in the first half or something. Like, it's such a better way of doing it than trying to show characters going through change or something. It's just like, all right. And I'm not saying that would work for every fucking movie, but most of the time, fucking hit me with, this is these characters 6 months later. Just tell me that. I'll be like, all right, let's go.
I mean, for this movie specifically, I think it fits it so well, because it's just so whimsical. When you have that title card with that type of frame, and the language they use is just very like, at the same time in a different city. It's just very
across town.
Yep. Yeah. It's good stuff. So, man, Bogdanovich, just batting 100, I guess.
For you specifically, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, so far, you didn't dislike this one, so.
No, this is a 3-star. This is a C+. there were parts where it dipped for me, but yeah, the legacy this has, and we'll talk a bit more about it on our warm up when we get to the trivia section, because we've already dived deep into some aspects of this I was not expecting us to. But that's what happens in real talk, man. Conversation takes us.
Might as well quit. Best damn picture that's ever gonna be made has already been made.
You sure as hell ain't gonna make one better.
Do want to close with some of Bogdanovich's thoughts. This is from the reception section of the Wikipedia page. For the Los Angeles premiere, all guests and some critics paid 5 cents to see the movie in honor of the film and early Hollywood ticket prices. That's so fucking cute. However, the movie was unsuccessful at the box office. Well, I wonder why. He made people pay 5 cents to see it. And this was Bogdanovich's third flop in a row after Daisy Miller and At Long Last Love, the latter of which was also an attempt to revive an older style of filmmaking. I think that it'll be interesting to see where our Bogdanov films go in that Last Picture Show was such a success and such the love letter to the days of yore that I feel that we'll be revisiting this. But in 2004, Bogdanovich commented that the previews were edgy and the studio wanted me to take most of the drama out, play it more comedy, and turn it into a What's Up doc, which it really wasn't. What's Up doc coming soon to Patreon. So that threw it off and it got fucked up. Again, the picture came out not at all the way I wanted. I tried to recut that one and I couldn't get back to it. There's about 5 minutes I'd like to put back in that really makes a difference. Some heavy stuff where you find out that Ryan O'Neal has an affair with Stella Stevens and it becomes very clear. And you see that John Ritter knows it, all that stuff.
Holy shit.
It was just, I know, like you could pack that in 5 minutes.
Well, it just adds so much to the John Ritter character, too, because he seems so happy-go-lucky the entire time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It just makes it much heavier and darker. So the picture got screwed up, and that's why I took 3 years off and went away. He also blamed the studio for poor marketing, saying, I couldn't seem to get anything across to them. I felt like I was talking into a void. When you've had a few successes, you can say the stupidest things in the world and people will think it's clever. When you've had a few flops, you can say something perfectly reasonable and they look at you as if you have no idea what you're talking about. And then this was W.D. Richter's response. W.D. Richter of Stealth fame said, after it became clear the picture was a failure, the most amazing thing happened. I got more job offers than ever before in my life. People seemed so mad at Peter that they were eager to make excuses for me and help out, and they all wanted to hear about working with him.
I'm telling you, man, it's the cycle. They build you up, then they want to tear you down.
It's no different today. Just ask The Rock.
You just wait at the Peter Bogdanovich TikTok where he's explaining on a blackboard how Nickelodeon actually made money. Daisy Miller also coming to a future After Hours, Alex. So
Wingo.
Yeah, okay, so that's interesting because I thought this was his first flop, but actually this was his third flop in a row. So I guess maybe I was going by the tomato meter score. I wasn't looking at box office. Should be interesting to see. Yeah, we have What's Up Doc and then Daisy Miller and They All Laughed coming soon. Next time, though, that we meet up with our friend P-Bog is going to be Illegally Yours. So I think that's also another not very well received. I think that by then we'll be knee deep into the troubled years of him. I mean, if he took 3 years off after this, man, after having such a high with targets and Last Picture Show, that's wild to just think of the fact that a filmmaker could just also get so much backlash that he'd be like, nope, I want to take off. I mean, I guess, Spielberg went through something like that too. I think we've said it. Most filmmakers do. If they make enough movies, they have that sort of up and down. Well, Alex, I don't think that would be a surprise at this point, but this is 5 stars for me. That's how much I liked it.
What?
Yep. I told you,
Jesus
I loved it. I used the L word. I said I loved it. And I will disagree with Mr. P-Bog. I don't think this movie needed to be more serious. Like, I am intrigued by those 5 minutes where suddenly John Ritter is a cuck, but I don't think that this movie needs to be even a little bit more serious. I think that the moments that it has of seriousness are just perfectly modulated. But then again, I'm experiencing this movie mostly as a comedy that has like a couple moments that are relationship driven and that are emotional. But that's one of the biggest positives. They kept making me laugh, and it sounds like Bogdanovich wanted something different out of it, which, you know, it's his movie, so that's his prerogative. But as somebody who loves it the way it is, I'm really curious about that director's cut. I'm assuming that those 5 minutes are then in that black and white YouTube video.
I don't know, man. All I know is that in black and white, there's nothing to distract you. That Ryan O'Neal's blonde hair and blue eyes won't distract you.
Yeah, blame it on Ryan O'Neal.
He's so handsome.
Yes.
5 stars. Jesus.
5 stars. I didn't give 5 stars to Last Picture Show.
That's insane. 3 stars as far as what I'll log, and then that translates to C+. I'm fine with it. This is a movie I will defend if someone like comes at it like, oh, that movie fucking sucks. I'll be like, well, hold on. But this isn't. When this is all said and done, this will not be mentioned in the same breaths as Paper Moon or Last Picture Show, or even Targets. Targets is way better than this. But anyway, break out the Crayolas and color me tickled pink. Julio's coming away with 5 stars on this one, and I'm a bit shocked. Already, the Bogdana films and PJ parties are yielding interesting results. Julio, where is this taking us next?
All right, we're going to our second PJ party, Alex. The triumphant return of Julia Roberts to the main feed. This is My Best Friend's Wedding. Also returning, Rupert Everett, as teased in the Dunstan Checks In episode.
This has to be one of the biggest cultural movies, specific. I don't know if this was a cultural happening in anywhere else but America, but I remember, and I've lived with this being like a beloved American film that I have never seen. Go back to our Aaron Brockovich episode to get my take on Julia Roberts as an actress and as a celebrity, because I don't think we're going to circle back to that necessarily in this episode. But I'm excited to finally cross this off the list.
Demo Morodi is coming to the party too.
Yeah, I was about to say.
And Cameron Diaz.
And Christopher Masterson is apparently in this. That's cool. Francis from Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, okay.
Paul Giamatti's in it?
What?
He's got a credit. So I guess we'll do the Leo point at the screen. Like,
it's the Rhino.
It's Professor Hunnam. Let's see. You're gonna point in the screen and say. All right, My Best Friend's Wedding on deck. That's a big one.
Yeah, PJ Hogan comes back with his second movie.
Made $300 million.
A little bit more than Muriel's Wedding.
Just a scotch.
All right, so that's it. We'll be back with My Best Friend's Wedding. If you want to get ahead on the Bogdanov film journey, Illegally Yours will be next when we come back to P-Bog. But I am ready, Alex. Let's get out of here.
Let's do it. Welcome to our end credits.
Or as we usually call them, our perennial plugs.
We start off by giving thanks to the Festive Years who provide our opening and closing tracks. They kick us off with Last Stand and take us home with Summer of 99. Be sure to head over to thefestiveyears.com for any and all Festive Years needs.
Our friend and fellow podcaster Hans Rothgieser is the man behind our logo and all the art you see related to our show. Reach out to him and let him know how much you like that little tomato. His email address is mildemonios@hotmail.com and his website is mildemonios.pe. That's MILDEMONIOS. You can also check out his podcast Nacion Combi about Peruvian current affairs and Marginal about economy. Hans, thank you for all your support.
For those interested in the regularly absurd world of professional wrestling, Joe and the boys over at latenightgrin.com have you covered. Tell them the Contrarians sent you.
And we like to close with special thanks to our social media team of Zoe Perez and Coriari. Each of the social media accounts we mentioned in the introduction look as good as they do because of their work.
So that'll do it for this episode of The Contrarians, where we're right and you're wrong, and we will catch you next time.